let's maybe introduce ourselves a little bit. So, Tim, do you want to go first?
Yep, sure. Thanks. My name's Tim. I've been at Esoft for around 8 years, and I work a lot with clients shooting for the middle market who are looking to scale their business. And that's the area that I'm going to talk about a little bit later.
Hi, I'm Matt. I'm a photographer. Last number of years I spent in London shooting mid and high-end market real estate in London. Recently, I joined Esoft and I'm working in the product expert department. My clients are mostly from Europe and United States.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mats, Norwegian. I've been here in Vietnam for quite some time, 3.5 years now with Esoft. My background is both graphic design and commercial photography. I worked predominantly with the European market and the Australian market and sometimes the US market.
Hi, my name is Chang and I'm one of the business development executive here at Esoft. I work with real estate marketing companies to help identify their post-production needs and set up those custom solutions here. So if you have seen one of our webinars before, then you know that I'm one of the regular co-hosts on here.
Right, so I'm Quan, another regular here on Esoft's webinar. I work as a product marketing executive, and then I focus on defining the marketing plan for each of the product and then making them shine and shipping them over to you. So yeah.
All right, so I'm assuming that you guys are all media service providers. So it's key that there's a strong connection between your client, meaning the agent, your business, and us, your post-processing partner. We all need a workflow that can deliver products that your market desires, that is practical for you to capture, but also possible for us to process using both our tech and human resources. So our goal here is to help you scale, generate more revenue, and become the leading real estate marketing company in your market. But to do so, it's always good to be considerate that your output in one stage is the input in the next stage. So in our case, the images that your photographer takes become the editor's input, which result become the agent marketing material to close on a house. So what we're saying is basically, it is best to shoot with the editing process in mind, meaning the more consistent the inputs, the better the outcome.
Right, so talking of the market, you now are looking at the market value distribution curve. After some 15 years working with lots of clients defining their shooting techniques to serve different markets, we see properties that our client typically shoot can be categorized into three major groups. First one you can see on the left side is the rental or leasing low-end market. So this market size has been getting a bit larger and larger with demand for quick and easy images from platforms like Airbnb, you can say. Now the middle market is where the bulk of listed properties stay. It contributes to a majority of the revenue coming to our clients. And then I assume it's the same for all of you sitting here today. Lastly, we talk about the high-end market where luxurious properties or architectural buildings are. So your clients in this market tend to be architects, publishers, or builders that we have surveyed.
Yeah, and to serve these different markets, you need to design packages that best fit your client's budget. So these packages can vary in the number of photos, shooting style, editing style, included retouching, included products. But today we're going to focus on the shooting part. The way that your photographers capture images or data is of huge importance to us. And different methods have different pros and cons. So today we're going to explore what we can do with each of these techniques.
Right, so leaning into those three different markets, we're going to cover them all in our agenda today. And then lastly, we'll talk about the photo manipulation techniques you can turn into service for your clients. Right, let's jump into it with the lower market with Matt.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm going to talk a bit about the lower market, basically often referred to as the rental, so the rental style. So for this, it's all about cost and efficiency to be able to have good margins. And for that, the most common approach is to combine one ambient exposure together with a bounced flash. for the best results. So that means that you will sometimes have issues with the flash, depending on the knowledge and the location. You will have crisp colors, and also you will have a slightly overexposed window view. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen now, and here you can see the inputs, and you have flash shadows. So depending on the way you use the flash, you can minimize the flash shadows, or they will be included. And with this, we can work on reducing it in post-production, and we have different post-production packages to fit your needs. So we can create something that is very useful.
So they are all exposure, and I think they look quite impressive. So Matt, can you talk a little bit about the shooting style? What should be the input be like here?
Yeah, for the input, we need consistency. We also need, as a general rule of thumb, to have the exposure based at the middle of the histogram. Because the flash will lift the shadows, and we don't want the windows to be too overexposed. So aiming for the middle is a good starting point.
Right. So can you shoot with any type of flash, anything specific or general that you recommend?
Most of the time, you can use the flash that you have, but there will be occasions where you encounter larger rooms, and you may find that your flash is not powerful enough. And for that, you have a couple of options. You can either, instead of pointing the flash behind you and get a softer light, you have to actually point it forward, and then you will still have the light, but you will get some more flash shadows easily. Another thing is that you can increase your ISO setting to then extend the range of your flash.
Right. So talking about the flash, do you have any other tricks for the photographers to kind of know the shooting for rental properties?
Well, you can always work with light modifiers, so you can start shaping the light and work around that. But then you will need more knowledge, and you also will need a much more powerful flash. So that is possible. Another option for those that want to shoot without flash, it's still possible to do HDR and so auto bracket and auto merge result. And smartphones these days are getting better and better, especially when it comes to HDR merging. So that's also an option.
Right. So to note with all the attendees listening in today, from a business perspective, we recommend this shooting technique or approach to lower value properties or rental properties for you to, make the most of your time and budget.
Okay, with rental style, basically everything is a trade-off. But rental is a good way to start out in the market and gain experience. And also, if you're looking to add more people to your team, then it's also a good way to test them out using rentals.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing, Matt. I do agree that starting out with a rental is like getting your foot in the door. Once you get the hang of it, I think most of the photographers will gradually move to the middle market, where most of the properties lie, because that is really the bread and butter of your business, right? Now I'm gonna pass it to Tim to talk more about the middle market.
Hi, I would like to talk briefly about shooting 5 exposure ambient brackets, which in some ways is nothing new, but it is a tried and trusted way of capturing real estate, and it's likely to be as relevant in the future as it is today. It's also going to be relevant for scaling your business. So I'm sure that some of you are already shooting a workflow like you see on the screen or something similar to that. For those who aren't, but are interested, please follow up with us afterwards and we can give you some more details. Okay, so why ambient and not flash? You can see some of the images that are going to be on the screen. I think if we're talking about what the average family home is, then the end client is most commonly looking for images which are going to be an authentic representation of what it feels like to be standing in their property. And using only ambient light can do that. It's always going to show the true representation of what the lighting is actually like in that space. And also, lighting has become much better. It's become cooler in color temperature. People are using softer, more subtle lighting, and people are building houses and apartments more with lighting in mind and how lighting is actually going to benefit that space. And then people are furnishing their homes brighter with more neutral and lighter colors. So all in all, I think this has contributed to a slightly easier experience for the photographer and for our editing teams. And I think almost gone are the days where photographers shot a property and they came back with files looking really, really dark and really, really yellow in the heavy color cast. So I think those are some initial points that make a good case for shooting only ambient images for this market. For everyone listening that's shooting a flash workflow, that might be right for you. Please don't switch off or anything. I'll talk about the kind of ambient versus flash discussion at the end when we talk again about how to scale your business.
Tim, you mentioned 5 brackets, but I know that some people may be used to shooting 3 or 7 exposure depending on their cameras, or would like to save upload time. So why do you think that 5 is a good fit?
Yeah, good question. Let me just share my screen. I hope everyone can see my screen now. These are the input files of the 3 images that you just saw a minute ago. So I think the main thing is about capturing the full dynamic range of the scene. And you can do that with 3 exposures most of the time, depending on how many stops you're using. All of these examples here were shot 2 stops apart. Let me just open these up. So this is the middle one, this is the darker one, and this is the brighter one. So yeah, if you were just shooting 3, then you would be able to capture pretty much all of the data that you need with these 3 exposures. You're not getting too much benefit from the darker one, although there is some more details in the window. And with the brighter one, you are getting more details in the shadow area here. If you're just shooting 3, then the editors are going to be able to brighten this up so that you get more details, and they'll be able to recover more details from the window view as well. So that's not going to be a problem. But as mentioned, there are some benefits from shooting 5 exposures, though. For one, it is a safety net. It's a safety net for difficult lighting situations. It's a safety net for photographers who are perhaps just starting out. And it's also going to be able to give the photographers an element of choice and inform them how much to brighten up areas or recover details. It might show them what are going to be kind of more accurate colors for more difficult to know wall colors or object colors. And most of the time we're hand blending the images. So we're selecting which are the best exposures to use. The editor, they might not use all 5 exposures, but with 5, it allows them to pick and choose the ones that they want to use. And if we're not hand blending, then sometimes we work with our clients on using auto blending applications at the beginning of the editing process, which can give the editor a kind of a step up towards the final output. And this can be advantageous. Using auto blending software these days can provide a very kind of natural look and feel as a kind of foundation to work from. And shooting 5 exposures can sometimes give a slightly smoother blend to the output of those auto blending applications. And then finally, we really want the photographer to be focusing on making great compositions and not necessarily worrying too much about whether they've been able to capture all of the data that they need. So yeah, again, 5 exposures is going to allow the photographer to focus more on composition and less on whether or not they've got the data that they need for us to make the final edit.
Thank you. I also see that sometimes photographers shoot one stop, sometimes two. So is there like a rule that can be applied?
I would say that most people shoot two stops because they want to be able to get that extra data that can benefit from shooting two stops and 5 exposures. If I just open these images up quickly, you can see that the middle exposure is shot as I would imagine it to be, in the middle, slightly darker than the middle because this is backlit. And if you go 2 stops down, then you're getting most of the data in the shadow areas. 2 stops up, you're getting most of it in the highlight areas. And then the brightest and the darkest ones are right at the edges. So if you're shooting 2 stops and for some reason you've had difficulty or it's a very difficult lighting situation, if you move up or down, then you're always going to be able to get a degree of flexibility with 5, which means that you're going to capture all of the data, whether you're overexposing the brightest one or really underexposing the dark one. Within that 5, you'll get what you need.
Yeah, I think you cover a lot about the how and the why this type of shooting and editing can work. So do you have any final thoughts? Like, I would love to know what you would say to clients that are currently relying on Flash.
Yeah, if you're shooting Flash and you're happy with that, then please keep on doing that. The reason why I talk about this method is that it's become a much safer option over the years. I think previously Flash was a way of ensuring correct colors, details in shadows, avoiding glare from windows, which I agree with. And a few years ago, I was probably pushing clients to shoot a Flash workflow. But as mentioned in the beginning, I think things are slightly easier now and will continue to move in that direction. So we have to also think about scaling your business and how to do that. If you're using Flash, then that's extra gear and extra cost for likely for a freelance pool of photographers that you're using. And you're going to be using a lot of freelance photographers if you want to scale your business. A lot of training is done online now, which is fine. However, using off-camera Flash is a skill, and to be consistent across a small group of photographers might be very achievable. If you're scaling beyond that and you've got 30, 40, 50 photographers and above, then it might be quite difficult to get everyone on the same page. So this solution, shooting 5 ambient brackets, is a solution that works. We've seen very good results with it. A lot of our clients do use it, and I think we'll continue to do so. It's geared for that kind of desirable, authentic look and feel, and I think that that's what it delivers. So this is a recommendation for that kind of middle market. And now Mads is going to talk about some more advanced techniques that can really kind of open up that high-end market.
Okay, hello again. I will talk a bit about the high-end market this time. And what really sets the high-end market apart is we are really working with light sculpting and control. So it's a combination most of the time with a set of base exposures, of ambient exposures, much like the HDR process. And then we start building with flash exposures to shape the light. This is a very unique approach. Most of the high-end photographers, they have developed their own signature look and style over the years, making it quite hard to replicate. And you cannot achieve the same results with regular HDR techniques. So I'm going to share my screen to show you a bit more how this works. So from having a base exposure, just ambient light, the whole image is quite flat. But just adding some light behind, and you can start seeing the features, the design features much better, and have a more interesting light. And you can modify and control your light, and you can end up something like this as your final image.
Matt, Sorry,
Yes.
we got a question from one of the attendees. So what is live sculpting? Because that was the first time this attendee listened to this term. Can you explain it?
I can explain it a bit more. Another example, this is an assignment, and they wanted to show the features, creating shadows and of the interior features that they have here, the panels, because they're quite intricate. And they wanted to have a strong sunlight feeling. And this space is basically inside a building, so there's no direct sunlight to work with. This, as you can see, is still a raw file. So we go from the uncorrected raw file to this. And this is basically what light sculpting is. It's to add light where it's not before. So you are taking control over the space and you are shaping it to the way that you want. So in this case, the assignment was to have shadows that comes in created from the panels, the fixture. So this is something that you can only achieve by sculpting the light and to make it work around the space.
So it seems that lighting here is really important, and then the only thing that have achieved that is with flash, right? So can you use any kind of flash here as well, or any recommendation?
Yeah. Well, in theory, yes, but in practice, no. Like another example, this is another commercial assignment, a hotel room. From this to this, again, we are talking about raw files, and this is about getting things done in camera. And for this, you need a flash system that has enough light modifiers. So giving you the option to shape the light and control the light the way you want.
So we talk about the off-camera system. What about the camera system that people have to, be taken care of?
Yes, for this type of photography, foundation is everything. So you really start with a tripod. You need a really sturdy tripod, because often you end up with anything from 20 to 30 exposures, depending on how much flash and you're going to use within the room. There are two ways of doing it. You can either try to set it up and get it right in camera, which means that you work with multiple flash systems, or you do multiple exposures, and then you have one main flash and you walk around and you apply it to different areas, and then it has to be stacked together in post-production.
Sounds good. So we got another question from one attendee. What should be a large enough camera system, like a large format system?
Okay, you have different options. Like the minimum for this type of work is really a tilt shift lens that mimics some of the functions of a large format camera system. By large format, it's also known as a technical camera, and it enables you to do full movements on the front and the back stand of the camera. And this is really an architectural camera system. It is still the industry standard when you are documenting historical buildings. You have to use it. And the main advantage is that you can basically do straightening on camera. You don't need to do it in post-production.
Right. So what else should go into a high-end shoot, do you think?
It really depends on the client. For some, you even will have an interior stylist that will prop the setup, the rooms for you in advance. And when you're working with a lot of equipment, you need assistance to enable to move light quickly in between, because time is money, as always. So there's certainly a lot of people involved when you start getting into the high-end productions.
Right. So as a photographer shooting for years, especially in the studio setup, do you have any special advice for are the photographers attending today?
I would say going back to one of the classics like Ansel Adams, he had a concept called pre-visualization. And it's basically when you walk into the room, you start to pre-visualize how you want to set your light, how you want to shape that room, how you want to sculpt it. And once you have that vision, you can then start shooting and getting all the capture for it, and then having the post-production team that can enable you to bring your vision to life.
Right. So thank you very much, Matt, for sharing. Yeah, we can explore more on the high-end market with the natural editing style. And then on that note, I'll throw to Matt.
Thanks, Quan. Yes, a good start for a photography team or a company to tackle high end of the market, of the real estate market, is the style that has been trending lately in the different countries and the continents. We refer to it as a natural style. It has quite a few aesthetic values that makes it unusual, interesting, and standing out from a typical real estate photography. The light and shadow balance, colors, and overall feel to the photos and spaces are closer to something that we are used to see in major architecture or interior design magazines, such as Vogue Living, Elle Decor, Scandinavian Living, or Harper's Bazaar Interior. The style is often appreciated by architects and designers as well. In a way, natural style brings real estate photography closer to creative arts.
Say, Matt, like, what do you think make this style so unique and different?
There are three different aspects, three factors that we need to consider before we decide if it's beneficial for us to use this style or for our clients. So one relies on the photographer's skill set and creativity. Second depends on the way photos are edited. And last but not least is the space that we are going to photograph, the character of the space, the design. However, the most important part is getting all these three aspects fit together. We need to make it well structured and consolidated, the whole three parts, to make it a successful presentation.
And what do you say is the input for this style?
Yes, the input. Well, I won't be going into details of each shooting techniques. Tim and Mats covered this part really well before me. But I think it's worth mentioning that to achieve satisfying results in terms of quality and the style, we can use either single ambient exposure with occasional additional bracket in difficult light conditions. We can use single flambient with sensible use of handheld bounce flash or 3 ambient brackets. However, the safest way would be 5 ambient exposures. As Tim mentioned just before, this technique gives us a lot of control and flexibility in post-processing part, because each of these techniques has its advantages and limitations. The decision on how to shoot will depend on the photographer's skills, the gear that we have available, as well as the details of the style.
Right. So we have different shooting techniques, and we'll pick one of them. So what should be the next step in, processing and designing the property to, make this style really pop?
Yeah. So this style offers the unique feel that highlights what property has the best to offer. It's the mood of the space, design, and the lifestyle that goes with it. It's not just photos and not just the house. It's more. This product has a real potential to be successful in case of well-designed spaces. Places that has been nicely dressed or staged with interesting details to focus on for the photographer. Your team can show off here their creativity in finding interesting angles, focusing on the composition, using a lot of one-point perspective shots, building plans using shallow depth of field, or shooting portrait format that later we in Esoft can put together as a collage.
So what should the editing process be like?
Here, the editing team work closely with a photographer to best reflect the unique feel. In general, window views, window details will usually be a little bit overexposed. Shadows slightly deeper than we normally see across standard mid-market listings. Natural color temperature with lateral saturation is also something that is common in this style. All of this will be predefined in the stage of development. These details will brand a mark that will make your style standing out and be recognizable. This all makes natural style also very clickable content.
Right. I really loved it when you mentioned like clickable content. I do really agree that, with the style like this, I've been seeing a lot of them on the Instagram. From what I've been seeing on, those platforms, lots of real estate agents, or content creator are leaning on this style to promote the aesthetic vision of the property. It's just not about the photographs, right? It is about the visual content that is Instagrammable, we can call it. Now, if you want to help your clients stand out on social media with high quality magazineable visuals, I think this is definitely the avenue that you can pursue. You can go down to with the natural editing style, right?
That's exactly right. Natural style is more of a way of telling the story about the property, making it soulful instead of just documenting it. It's a good intro level to what is expected on the high end of the real estate market.
Yeah, right. Sounds like a really trending style in the years to come. What else do you recommend to nail the natural editing style here, Matt?
Well, to start, why don't you guys send us some input and we can have a more conversations and talk how to make this style best matching your preferences or your clients' preferences.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. Yeah, so that is it on the shooting techniques. Our photo expert will continue to answer any of your questions in the chat.
And I would like to say thank you to Matt, and Tim also for sharing your expertise with our attendees today. I hope all of you have got an idea of how to handle different market segments with different photo shooting styles and editing styles. If you have any questions that are not answered yet, please feel free to reach out to advise sales.vn@esoft.com. Our team will reach out to you shortly. Thank you.
All right, see you guys in the next webinar.
Bye.